This is YG-TV and the YG Stage, brought to you by Fleet Farm, Health Payment Systems, and Circle Electric. I'm Andy Weins, President of GreenUp Solutions. Welcome to YG Stage, our chance to feature the best and brightest speakers here on YG-TV. Young Guns is a growing group of experts, professionals, entrepreneurs, and free thinkers that share new ways to grow your business, build your brand, and make an impact. YG Stage is one of 4 shows here on YG-TV, where we feature business owners, CEOs, experts, maybe even you, to innovate, inspire, and break the rules of business. Today, we welcome Roger Wolkoff, motivational speaker and owner at All About Authenticity. Let's welcome him to the stage. Roger, how are you, sir?
Great, good to see you, Andy.
So tell me, what are we going to be talking about today?
We are going to be talking about connection and how that is going to lead to empathy and how it's going to lead to elevating others.
And why is that so important to you?
To me, it's important because in my business, I believe that we should elevate others to elevate others. And that means when I elevate you, you get to go out and elevate other people. We all rise.
I'm beyond excited to hear about it. It's all about what we talk about as keynote speakers, coming together, collaborating, building this network. So I'm excited. I know people here in the audience are excited. Let's kick it off.
Sounds great, man.
Excellent. Let's welcome Roger to the stage. But first, we got to thank our sponsors, Fleet Farm, Health Payment Systems, and Circle Electric for sponsoring YG Stage.
Fleet Farm has everything you need for every season of life. From tending the vegetable garden season to planting 100 acres of crops season. Fleet Farm is your one-stop shop, whether it's strawberry jam season, cook your walleye season, or his first set of wheels season. Fleet Farm is built for every season. Fleet Farm, built for real life.
For more than 80% of families, today's medical billing practices are confusing. At HPS, our goal is to improve the healthcare experience for the patient by making medical bill payments less stressful. In Wisconsin, that's all made possible by our comprehensive independent healthcare provider network. We simplify billing and lower costs for everyone involved in healthcare and offer various ways for individuals to pay without breaking the bank.
Circle Electric is a 35-year-old commercial, industrial, and healthcare electrical contractor with engineers and designers on staff backed by the most technical and well-trained master and journeyman electricians. Whether it's an equipment move, new build, or commercial remodel, all the way from pre-construction through startup. Primary power, branch power, or low-voltage systems, we're here to support you. Our 24/7 on-call service department is here to meet your electrical needs for our healthcare and industrial customers. You always hear safety first. We are safety always. Circle Electric will maintain electrical reliability for business continuity.
Hi. Let me start with this. What's your problem? Okay, it's not what you say, I guess it's how you say it. So let me ask it another way. What is your problem? What is your business problem? That's what I want to talk about today. So take about 5 seconds right now. Write down what your business problem is. What's your top business problem right now? Go ahead. Maybe you have 2 or 3. But go ahead and write them down. And in our time together, we're going to figure out how to get that problem solved. And I'm going to give you some answers. Okay, you got your problem down. So what we're going to talk about today is connection, listening, empathy, and elevation. C-L-E-E. Got it? Why are these things important? If you're in business, if you're a leader, these things are important now more than ever. And the reason is because if you're in business, you got to do this thing with people, right? How many of you realize you got to do this with people? It's either the people in your company, if you're by yourself, it's your vendors. If you're selling something, you're selling to buyers, you're selling a product, you're selling a service. Folks, you're selling you. You're selling this. You're selling this right here every single day. So we're going to talk a little bit about selling. So let's get right into connection right away. Why is connection important? I bet you're out there networking like crazy. And for some of you, I bet you might be a little frustrated. Well, let's talk about why connection is so important. Why do we need this? Why do we care? If you're out there networking, right, you need to find people to help support your business. So the connection that you're making is so important. And if you're selling, What do we call those people we sell to? Well, we call them buyers, right? You're a buyer. I want you to reframe that. I want you to think about them in terms of connections or relationships that you're building, because that's what you're doing every single day. Well, what's all this building relationship stuff? Why is that important? Well, let me put it into perspective for you. Why is building a relationship important when you're selling? Have you ever been sold to like that? Like when somebody comes up to you, hey, I need you to buy this. Tess, I got something I'm selling. I need you to buy it. Would you sign on the dotted line? That makes no sense. But here, let me put it to you this way. Let's say that you're going out on a date with that special someone. Maybe it's your first date. And you get to the bar and over drinks. Your date looks over at you, and your date says, I want you to know a couple of things. Number one, I am the perfect mate for you. I mean, you're not going to find anybody else on the market like me. You're not going to find anybody else who looks like me, and you're not going to find anybody who cares about you as much as I do. And number two, I heard you're looking for kids. You looking for kids? I am the best parent. I am the best parent you're going to find out there. Really, I got mad skills. And number three, I mean, look at this. Who doesn't want more of this? Know what I'm saying? So how about you say we get married? Anybody saying yes? Probably not. But that's the way a lot of selling goes, guys. So when we're talking about building relationships, we build them a little bit at a time. So think about the way that you're making connections. Let's talk about how to create that connection in a smart way that makes sense. So if you're making cold calls, if you're making warm calls, whatever it happens to be, you want to make connections. If you're networking with somebody in a networking group, you want to make connections in a kind way. And the way that we do that, we're going into number 2 here. We're going to talk about asking the right questions and listening, right? We're going to ask some open-ended questions. We're going to ask for interest, and we're going to listen intentionally. So let me ask you this. How many times have you been out there and you're having a conversation with somebody, and all you can think about is the next thing that you're going to say in the conversation? That ever happened to you? You know what I'm saying? Right? We start talking about, let's say I ask Andy, hey Andy, tell me about your last vacation. Nice open-ended question. But Andy, right? He starts talking about skiing in Vail. He starts talking about how great the powder is. He starts talking about that one time they were out at the campfire and telling stories and all that. And all I can think about is how I'm going to jump in the conversation. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about truly listening with intention. So when you ask somebody what's going on with them, I want you to truly listen to what they're saying. And when you ask something, I want you to do this. Just ask the question and be quiet. Yeah. Just be quiet. So when you ask the question and then really listen to what's going on. Maybe you're taking notes, maybe you're doing something else. Here's a tip I picked up from a group that I'm involved with. And they said, when you ask a question, let's say you're doing this stuff over the phone, put yourself on mute. Yeah, seriously, put yourself on mute. Why would you do that? I don't know if you're like me, but when I talk to somebody, I'm always giving positive affirmations over the phone. Uh-huh. Right. Oh yeah, I hear you. Right on, spot on. Well, when you do that, you're introducing a little pause into the conversation. You see, the reason I do it is because I want them to feel good about the story they're telling me. But if I interrupt them, I'm not truly listening. So put it on pause. What's the worst, or put it on mute. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? They're going to say, hey, are you still there? And you say, yeah, please, keep going. Tell me more about that story. And when they tell you what's going on in their story, right? We all have story. How many of you have story? We all have story. We have something we want to say. Listen to what they're saying. Let me tell you one more thing about story. I don't know if you know this about me. I'm a recovering project manager. I've been on the program for 4 years, and I'm on step 6, okay? And when I was a project manager, right, I led all these projects and I managed teams. And one of the things I like to do when I got a new team, and I got new teams often, one of the things I like to do is take that team and I'd meet with everybody for about 15 minutes. I'd grab 15 minutes, let's go grab a coffee, let's have a walk, let's have a conversation. And the first thing I would do when I met with a person, I could do this with about 8 or 9 people, so it was manageable. So the first thing I would ask this person is, tell me a story. That's the first thing I'd put out there, tell me a story. And what they did then, after that, now they could tell me something personal, right? It could be something very meaningful and deep to them. That's fine. And I made space for that. Or perhaps they told me something work-related, right? It could be, we're having trouble on the team with this person, or I'm late at this deadline, whatever it is. But I gave them 15 minutes to tell their story. Now, sometimes people would ask, what do you mean? What's going on? And I'd say, no, I just want to find out about you. What's going on with you? What's going on in your head? Whatever was going on in their head at that moment, that was the most important thing to them. And it was a little bit of a barrier to whatever we might need to get done on the project. So that's why I always started with that. There was one time, John came up to me. I remember we were having our conversation, and I said, John, tell me a story. And he says, hey, Raj, can you do me a favor? And I said, sure, John, what may I do for you? Could you please move the meeting time? The last 3 project managers we had on this project did not move the meeting time. And I'm like, sure, what time are you guys meeting now? And he said, well, we're meeting at 4 o'clock. And I said, sure, when do you want me to move it to? Could you move it to the morning? And I said, well, of course I can move it to the morning. I said, why do we need to move it from 4 o'clock? And he says, with all the sincerity in the world, well, I need to pick up my daughter from daycare at 4:30. My wife can't, so I'm the one who has to pick her up. And I said, John, of course we can move the meeting. That's a small detail. What else can I do for you, buddy? That was the biggest thing that I could do for him at that point when we were working together. And John and I worked together for 4 years after that, and he never forgot that little bit that I did for him. A small thing on my part, a big thing for him. So that's why we need to listen to what other people's stories are, because it leads to E, empathy. Why in the world are we talking about empathy? What is empathy? Empathy, right, is understanding the feelings and thoughts of other people. Like what I did with my friend John, right? I could put myself in his place, having been a father myself. I still am a father. I'm a father myself, and I know what it's like to want to be there for your kids. So I could put myself in John's place. So when you're talking to your clients, here's the advice that I can give you. Be there for them, whatever it might be. What kind of empathy can you give over the phone or in person? You can put yourself in their place, try to understand the context of what they're going through right now. Now, it may be a business problem or it might be a personal problem. Right now, we're in the time of COVID, okay? And what's really interesting is people are in some very weird headspaces. Not weird headspaces, I should say. They're in some very, very troubling headspaces. We don't know where people are. Something I've done over the last 3 months is that I have, in all of the programs that I've done, I've surveyed people. I speak about emotional intelligence. One of the first things we get to, I ask in a survey, I said, tell me the top 3 emotions. Tell me the top 3 emotions you're feeling right now. You want to guess what I get back? In the last 3 months, what I've gotten back is anxious, tired, and overwhelmed. Those are the top 3 things people are feeling right now. Now, in that list, what's really interesting is that hopeful, forward, and excited also show up. They're in the top 10, but not the top 3. So that tells me right now people are experiencing a wide range of emotions. What in the world do we do with that? What are you going to do with that? What I do with it is it prepares me, at least for the conversation the initial conversation that I'm going to have with someone. I can start with that story, just like I started with you. Did you know that these are the top 3 things that people are feeling? And it opens up a conversation for us to connect. Because 99 times out of 100, the conversations that I'm having with people, they identify with it themselves, or they know someone who is. And then we're off and running and talking about a conversation. But before I can get to the will you marry me question, I have to know where people are. So do you. That's what you're going to do with people. That's the connection you're going to build over time. Because somewhere in that story, somewhere in that questioning, if someone says that they're feeling anxious or they're feeling tired or they're feeling overwhelmed, Whatever it happens to be, that's the space that they're in right now. And that's the space. That is the space that you want to honor. That's being empathetic with them. So if you think empathy is this squishy thing that you don't have any time for in business, I'm here to tell you that I want you to reframe that thinking, because that's what's needed right now. Whatever people are going through, whether it's COVID, racial tension, election, polarizing thoughts, whatever it happens to be, we don't have to necessarily agree with everyone, but we do need to reach out to them. And that's what people want for that connection. That's empathy. Last E that we're going to get to, number 4. Elevation. What in the world are we talking about with elevation? As you heard me talk to Andy at the intro, my mission at All About Authenticity is quite simple. Elevate others to elevate others. Here's what that means. You have an opportunity with every person you meet to leave them better off than you found them. I'm not the originator of that phrase, but it is a thought that I think of all the time when I'm on the phone with someone or if I'm meeting someone. So you have an opportunity to appreciate them. How can you close out the conversation? How can I show someone that I appreciate them? If you're familiar with the 5 love languages, you're also familiar with the 5 appreciation languages. Here's one of them. We can show appreciation to people with our words. 50% of us prefer to be appreciated with words. So what I want you to do is you close that call with someone every single time. I want you to think about thanking them. I want you to point out something they did during the call that maybe was unique. Maybe they gave you an insight that you hadn't thought of before. Maybe they shared a story with you. You can look at them and say, wow, thank you for sharing that story about the vacation you went on with your family. Thank you for sharing that special moment that you had with your son or daughter now that you're homeschooling them. Share a moment with them that reflects back on them. Step outside yourself for just a minute and make it about them. That's empathy, and that leads to elevation. My wish for you, in closing, is this. I want you to be as wildly successful as you can right now. Pick any one of the things that I talked about today. Connection, listening, empathy, or elevation. And think about how to make that part of your toolkit. And here's my final challenge to you. Reach out to me, give me a phone call, and I promise you, I will give you 15 minutes of my time to listen to your story and be there for you. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you so much for sharing that with everybody.
My pleasure, Andy.
All right, so what are the 4 again? Just so I want to remember it. The 4
You bet,
things.
man. You bet. So we got connection,
Yep.
listening,
Yep.
empathy, and elevation.
So I know for me, listening is the biggest struggle. I'm one of those people that I ask a question, I grab onto one thing they said, and I'm just waiting my time. What's a trick that I can use to be better at listening?
Good question. I do the same thing. I'm always trying to think about the next thing that's there. One trick that I do is I just purse my lips, honestly. Mm-hmm. I just keep them like this. And I look interested, and I nod. And so you're doing it now, man. He can be taught. He can be taught. It's tough. It's tough. Make eye contact. Make eye contact. When somebody says something interesting, look away just for a second. Yeah, just like that. Exactly. Yeah, so pick 1, 2 or 3 things. Sometimes, last trick, sometimes people have something in their pocket that they hang on to, right, and they hold on to. I happen to have a rock or something that I hold on to, and so I know when I'm touching that, that is my listening cue, that I should listen to what the other person is saying. Give it a thought.
That was very difficult.
You wanted to jump right in.
I don't have anything in my pocket. Like, I'm pursing my lips.
All right, Roger, which one of those do I do?
But that's true, right? We were talking earlier about everyone has strengths, right? And there's some things that aren't strengths. That's right. So it's important that you focus on those things, right? Empathy, listening, those are not things that I would describe myself as and others. But then there's other people that pick up on other things in your speech. So when you're giving that talk, when you're working with audience, what resonates with them the most? Where is that aha moment?
The aha moment comes in, I believe, in 2 places. One is the listening, The second is the empathy, believe it or not. People, that's why I was saying sometimes people are thinking this is the squishy part, right? Because it's like, well, we're here for business, and what place, why do we need to have empathy? And I say you need the soft stuff, otherwise you're not gonna, have time for the hard stuff like your ROI, your sales, or any of that kind of stuff. So I see light bulbs go on when we talk about it. When we talk about empathy in such a way that it resonates with somebody, then when we tell stories that people can put themselves into with empathy, that's when the light bulb goes off. When I told the John story, people were like, oh yeah, if that's a story about empathy, I can see something like that that I can relate to that in my life. And now I can attach to that and move forward perhaps with an empathy exercise and live empathy myself.
Say that the things that you talk about, the things that you preach about, you say you're a recovering project manager, you are actively working on those things, but you also amplify, you also set that example. And it comes through in who you are and how receptive you are to others. So I can't thank you enough for joining us here on the YG stage, and I look forward to continuing to watch your career and be involved in your career as you build it out.
Thank you, Andy. It's been a pleasure being here. Thank you for making me feel welcome.
Thank you, absolutely. Thank you, Roger, for taking the YG stage. Are you or someone you know ready to take this stage? Help us feature the best and brightest speakers around by going to younggunsmovement.com and apply to be a speaker. This is your chance. Apply now and you can be featured on the next episode. YG Stage is brought to you by Fleet Farm, Health Payment Systems, and Circle Electric. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow the Young Guns Movement for new content always coming your way. Thank you again for joining us on the YG Stage. I'm Andy Weins, President of Green Up Solutions. We'll see you next time.